Sir David Malpass, with a huge humility and modesty, I beg you to stop the disaster, the havoc of the consensus of Washington in Algeria. I beg you, because I cannot beg the governor of the Central Bank of Algeria. He is afraid. He is the Himmler of Algeria in a white collar. So also, I extol my compatriots in Algeria to stop this demonstration in order to see better our future. I beg them to stay Amazigh. I beg them to protect the integrity of our territory. I beg them, I extol them to invite our sisters and brothers of the South to be more close to us, and we'll make efforts to be more closer to them. So, to the Algerian decision makers, I don't know what are the words that I will use with you. I have used, I think, all the variety of expressions, of peaceful expressions, of love, of submission. So, stop to be afraid by the World Bank and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Stop to be afraid by the United States of America and England and the European Union, and especially France. The November 1st is coming. Stand out and stand up. With all my deep hurt, from the deep of my heart, keep Algeria peaceful, keep it united, and make it Amazigh and Muslim. Thank you. Dear David Malpass, President of the World Bank Group, for Montreal, my greetings. In my native-speaking tongue, Kabyle, a derivative of Tamazight, we say Azul, and in Arabic, Tahiyyati lakum. First of all my congratulations for your nomination as President of the World Bank Group. I was delighted by my reading of your remarks at the United Nations high-level meeting for universal health coverage led by ADA, the International Development Association, a non-governmental organization sponsored by the World Bank Group. Likewise, India and the Democratic Republic of Congo. I wish that the Algerian people, to which I belong, and all its neighbors in North Africa could benefit from it. While preparing this comment, I did my best to be brief. So, right off the bat, to the core of my address to you. By October 9, 2019, the World Bank Group has published Algeria's economic update. Even if globally I agree with its content, I am a little bit disturbed by some expression used in it, and seriously annoyed and irritated by the quality of its figures. It is written in your publication, political uncertainty. The two words of the second paragraph have put my native country in a big turmoil. Unfortunately, they aren't the right keywords. In my point of view, There is no political uncertainty in Algeria. Algeria isn't in a limbo. In fact, the goose of Algeria is cooked. The right and scaring sentence in your publication is the revision of hydrocarbon fiscal law is delayed. Before digging this warning to the current Algerian decision makers, a quick look to the figures listed in the first paragraph, just the first paragraph, in which you have written, on the sectoral side, commercial services, industrial, construction and public works, and agricultural sectors continue to drive the non-hydrocarbon growth, reaching 5.6%, 4.6%, 3%, and 2.7% in the first quarter of 2019, respectively. The rate of growth in agricultural sector is 2.7%. Compared to the 5.6% of commercial services, it's less than its half. It's a sufficient reason to be really terrified by the future of Algeria if this trend goes on. Mr. Malpass, neither your time nor mine will be consumed in describing the horror of the significance of other statistics. Now let's come back to the topic sentence. The revision of the hydrocarbon law is delayed. To argue and bridge with what is happening now in Algeria needs elements of history. In 10 days, we are October 2019, sorry. It will be November 1st, will be the Remembrance Day of the national freedom outbreak. And in approximately 2 months, the remembrance of the death of one of its leaders, its utopian leader, Hocine Ait Ahmed. Now, when we go back farther in the past, in 1928, 2 agreements about the oil sharing were implemented. The first one was between American, British, and French oil companies and is known as Red Line, Ligne Rouge agreement. And the second one is the Aknakari agreement in Scotland. If Hocine Ait Ahmed had worked hardly to make Algeria independent and others have badly managed its natural resources, we can induce that delaying the revision of the hydrocarbon fiscal law written by foreigners who are for sure linked to the dominating oil companies is the warning, either told during a secretive meeting or sent just by a phone call. That's why the Algerian Army Chief of Staff is urging the Algerian nation to hold the presidential election and the parliamentary assembly to promulgate this law before December 2019. If done, it will be the biggest treason, I will repeat it, if done. If this law is enacted, it will be the biggest treason to the Algerian Amazigh and Muslim spirit recovered by Hocine Ait Ahmed and all the Algerian fighters. Because the Algerian fundamental law, constitution, is illegal, if this law on oil is enacted, Algeria will relinquish much more its sovereignty and will confirm that Algeria is on sale. Now, in Algeria, innocent demonstrators and protesters, I repeat it, innocent demonstrators and protesters who are leveraged by a small group directed by the United States, England, France, European Union, and other NGOs, are participating to trigger a looming and huge military conflict in the desert of Algeria. A reminder to my compatriots and information to World Bank staff. In 2014, I have warned our compatriots to be aware to the transformation of the south of Algeria to an African Kosovo. It was in 2014. Since 2015, I started shouting to be solidary with the Algerian soldiers to keep peace and prevent any violence in Algeria, and I expressed my fully opposition to the devaluation of the Algerian money. I repeat it. I started to shout to be solidary with the Algerian soldiers to keep peace and prevent any violence. And I continue to extol them to be peaceful. And I have expressed, and I will still continue to repeat it, to shout it, my fully and totally opposition to the devaluation of the dinar, the Algerian money. Sir David Malpass, after this long introduction, let me dig deeper the pain and the harmful mood in Algeria. I agree with you that the wrecked Algerian state is also failed. I agree with you that the wrecked Algerian state is failed. But the Algerian people isn't the garbage of the humanity. The Algerian people isn't the garbage of the humanity. In September 2013, in Akbou, a small town near my village, Vujlil, in Kabylia, in Algeria, I made a lecture, very simple lecture, about the inflation and the human rights. In April 2014, at the University of Montreal, I did a presentation about the economic side of my native language, Amazighité, according to the human rights and sustainable development principles. I tackled the aspect on how transforming or making North Africa as an optimal economic area. I tackled, just quickly, I tackled it. In winter 2015, I did a humble demonstration on the effects or impacts of the devaluation of the Algerian money on the well-being of my compatriots. It was in winter 2015. It was humble. It was an opportunity for me to answer Sir Jim Yong Kim, the former president of the World Bank Group. And for being honest with you, I was under the influence of my drunkenness. In this demonstration of the effects, the impacts of the devaluation of money, I had used, at the time, the pestle analysis pattern that you can see in one of my videos on YouTube. After this long introduction, now I will try to add some other arguments, some other elements to the analysis I repeat it, for me, Algeria, and it's very sad, to say it. The goose of Algeria is cooked, and I will not be silent. I cannot be silent. I will do all what I can for its peace, for its Amazighité, for its development. Now, in the Algeria's economics update, we say the pre-election season is also likely to further delay the fiscal consolidation. In Algeria, doesn't need any fiscal consolidation. Algeria needs peace, needs deficits, and needs an sur-evaluation and overvaluation of its money. But in the Algeria overview published by the World Bank, we can read this one. Going forward, the government needs to improve the quality of education, as Algeria ranked 71 out of 72 economies for the performance of its 15-year-olds in science, mathematics, and reading in the 2015 PASE assessment. PASE, for my compatriots in French, is PISA. It's the program for international student assessment. C'est le programme international pour le suivi des acquis. There is a huge difference between English, PASA, and PISA in France. So, when we write that Algeria is ranked 71 out of 72, it means that the Human Development Index of Algeria is the current value of the Human Development Index of Algeria is stupid. And I did this demonstration, the mathematical demonstration, obviously, in my book, Le livre de la jarre pour la patrie. I did it. One, when we read in the same overview, we read the fast erosion in official reserves has pushed the government to take additional steps to tighten, serrer, imports through new operational mechanisms to regulate wheat and milk imports, and through better controls on subsidies. These public policies of Algeria are criminal because the Algerian people is poor. You cannot limitate the milk and wheat importation and suppress the subsidies. If they will do it, Algeria will become a bloody earth. Also, this is in contradiction by the Human Development Index that is mentioned in your publication of October 10th. Now, when we read inflation remains stable at 4.3% in 2018 and has declined at 4.3% in 2019. 2018. I don't want to be a tricky person. There is a huge mistake in this sentence. Inflation remained stable at 4.3% in 2018. It's here. In 2018, and has declined at 4.3% in 2018. It's a big mistake of the World Bank Group, on the website of the World Bank Group. I agree with you that it's what we call in Latin words lapsus calami. I agree with you, sir. But if the World Bank Group makes this kind of mistakes, what about of Algeria? Also, while preparing this comment, of course, I have looked for some information on the different websites. When we have a quick look to the website of the World Bank, I'm not comfortable, I'm sorry. The World Bank about Algeria. About Algeria, and when we go to the tab strategy, we can read. When we go to the tab strategy, we can read. Reimbursable advisory services are complemented by several types of analytical and technical assistance work financed by the World Bank budget and other resources. Reimbursable services being provided to the Crédit Populaire d'Algérie, Algeria's leading state-owned bank, are the most substantive offered by the IFC, the International Financial. So when we go now, when we go to the website of the Crédit Populaire d'Algérie, and we look for something like World Bank, and we look for something like World Bank, we have no information about this. Let's come now to the Washington consensus and the havoc and this disaster that it had, and is still creating in Algeria, producing in Algeria. This paper is written by Stanley Fischer, to avoid the confusion with Irving Fisher of the famous economist and his false prediction about the inflation during the Big Depression 1929. Now, so Stanley Fisher, a quick resume of Stanley Fisher. He is the governor of the Bank of Israel and has served in his position since 2005. He has also served as vice chairman of Citigroup, first deputy managing director of the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and Killian professor and the head of the Department of Economics at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and vice president development economics and chief economics of the World Bank. Of the World Bank from 1988 to 1990. Let's here are the 10 rules, the 10 recommendations, the 10 commandments of the Consensus of Washington, written and implemented by John Williamson. Published of the by John Williamson, because there is a small confusion between John Williamson and Paul Williamson. We can read them quickly. Quickly. Fiscal discipline, which is absent from Algeria. Public expenditure priorities, nothing. We have just to check out the expenditure in the military sector. Tax reform, it's impossible in Algeria. Tax reform, no tax reform had been implemented in Algeria. Liberalization interest rates, it's impossible because now there are foreign banks in Algeria, but there is no monetary market. A competitive exchange rate. Let's come back to this one. Trade liberalization, oh yes. Even if Algeria isn't a member of the WTO, World Trade Organization, it's business, it's liberalized. Liberalization of inward foreign direct investment. Of course, they will target only the brown field, not the green field. And the door will be opened to the capital laundering. Privatization, yeah, it's the best applied measure in Algeria, and we have just to verify what the results. Deregulation, property rights. It's very important because one of the former prime ministers who is in jail now had taken at one time 2 famous singers in Algeria to the Office National des Droits d'auteur, to the National Office of Property Rights. Is the fiscal. When we apply this 10 commandments, we have just one. A competitive exchange rate, which is the mass destructive weapon applied in Algeria. I said it before, if I become the president of Algeria, the first decision, I will overvaluate the Algerian money by 56%, and then in a second step by at least 20%. I know that the effects, the consequences of the same decision taken in 2 parts, will be more important, will be bigger than the effects of an earthquake, power 6. I know it. It's the cost of the dignity. It's the cost of the dignity of the Algerian people, not the price, because the price is more important. After that, the second version of the Consensus of Washington are corporate governance, anti-corruption. Now, the first version of the Consensus of Washington applied in Algeria had produced a lot of corruption. With flexible labor markets. The labor market in Algeria is flexible because there are a lot of unemployed persons. It must be more flexible. But the ultraliberalism and the capitalism have changed the mind of the Algerian people. They cannot work in agriculture. World Trade Organization agreements. Even if Algeria isn't a member of the WTO, but Algeria offers all the advantages of a WTO member, but it's endure all its drawbacks. Financial codes and standards, prudent capital account opening are going there, like in Morocco. Non-intermediate exchange rate regimes, independent central bank inflation targeting, social safety nets, targeted poverty reduction. For the 18th, independent central banks, inflation targeting. Let's suppose a basic hypothesis. All the prices of the Algerian products are constant. Let's suppose it. It's an hypothesis. It's a basic hypothesis. Now, by devaluating the money of Algeria, we are importing inflation. So when we devaluate the Algerian money by, let's say, 33% or 37.2%, the inflation in Algeria cannot be 5.4%. It's impossible. So the central bank will, it's impossible for the central bank to target the inflation. So I cannot go into details of these ones. I'm tired by doing it. But I have just to read one sentence of Stanley Fischer about John Williamson, which brings us back to John Williamson. His approach to economics is deceptively simple. He believes in economics, and he believes in applying it. His approach to economics is deceptively simple. He believes in economics and believes in applying it. If I become the president of Algeria, the first decision I will overevaluate, I will order an immediate overvaluation of the money. It's the first one. And the second one, it will be a bilingual national anthem in order to make the Algerian nation more coherent, more united. So, Sir David Malpass, with a huge humility and modesty, I beg you to stop the disaster, the havoc of the consensus of Washington in Algeria. I beg you, because I cannot beg the governor of the Central Bank of Algeria. He is afraid. He is the Himmler of Algeria in a white collar. So also, I extol my compatriots in Algeria to stop this demonstration in order to see better our future. I beg them to stay Amazigh. I beg them to protect the integrity of our territory. I beg them, I extol them to invite our sisters and brothers of the South to be more close to us, and we'll make efforts to be more closer to them. So, to the Algerian decision makers, I don't know what are the words that I will use with you. I have used, I think, all the variety of expressions of peaceful expressions, of love, of submission. So, stop to be afraid by the World Bank and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Stop to be afraid by the United States of America and England and the European Union and especially France. The November 1st is coming. Stand out and stand up. With all my deep heart, from the deep of my heart, keep Algeria peaceful, keep it united, and make it Amazigh and Muslim. Thank you.